Hey guys, this is Erica the Goober, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about my art journey and how I became a freelance artist. This is part 2 of my art journey. If you haven't seen part 1 about when I started drawing, why I decided to become an artist, and my journey up until college, you should check out that video first. The part where I talk about wrangling pre-college is particularly important for understanding my thoughts about art school in this video. There have been several times on my art journey where I felt lost, but hearing stories of other artists and their journeys have always helped me find my way. I really hope hearing about my experience will help you with your art journey. So we left off in part 1 talking about wrangling pre-college. Going into my senior year, it was time to make some decisions about college. I desperately wanted to go to wrangling, but the tuition was so expensive and I had to come up with a plan B. So I ended up settling for a local university, the University of Louisville. They offered mainly fine arts and graphic design in their art program, but no illustration or visual development courses, or even digital art classes for that matter. I chose the fine art track hoping to learn my fundamentals and in a couple years transfer to an art school more like wrangling. The art school at U of L mainly focused on abstract concepts and building realistic drawing skills, and they weren't really too fond of the stylized characters that I draw now. My character work had to be mostly confined to my sketchbook or my class notes. I felt so boxed in since I wasn't able to create the things that I loved the most for my class projects. During this time, I was also working third shift at a package company in their warehouse moving boxes to get my tuition paid for. They would pay your tuition in full as long as you worked third shift through the required dates. While I am very thankful that I got my tuition paid the 4 years that I worked there, it was honestly the hardest thing I have ever done. The work was physically draining, plus scheduling classes was nearly impossible sometimes because you had to choose which times you were going to sleep. This was incredibly difficult if you had to take a class that was only offered at one time. The absolute worst schedule I had was classes in the morning, sleep from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m., go to work between about 11 p.m. and 3:30 a.m., come home, do homework, and do it all over again the next day. Not to mention, on the weekends, I had to keep the same sleep schedule because it was hard to change it back for 2 days and then get back into it the next week. This was one of the lowest points of my art journey. School was uninspiring. I couldn't draw what I wanted for class, not any cartoons or do any digital work. I felt like I wasn't learning much. I hated work. The way I was feeling was affecting my mental health as well as my relationships. I even stopped drawing in my sketchbook as much because I was so exhausted from everything else. I knew what I wanted my college experience to be like from wrangling, and this was not it. I felt more lost than ever. It got to the point where I felt like I could not continue my education at U of L, and I started looking for art schools in the Midwest. I actually got into the Art Academy of Cincinnati and I changed my mind last minute. I was feeling very hesitant and I didn't want to leave my friends, my family, and Marley for a school that I wasn't 100% sure about. So I decided to stay where I was, and I hoped that it would get better as I got closer to graduation. And things did get better, but only after I changed my perspective about college. I had to come to terms with the fact that I was not going to be going to a school like wrangling, and I had to make the most of what U of L had to offer. I tried incorporating digital art into my assignments as much as I could, which really wasn't much until my senior thesis. I pushed myself to work on my characters and my digital art on my own outside of class. I quit my job after a work-related injury where I crushed the tip of my middle finger on my drawing hand, and then I got a day shift job working in a commercial photography studio. I even started posting to Instagram at this time to get me to draw more consistently and to track my progress. The difficult time that I went through made me realize that college should be used as a tool to get you where you want to go, not some classes that you have to get through like in high school. I was not thinking about my classes as an opportunity to grow and challenge myself in new ways. U of L was not Ringling, but I had to find a way to make it work for me. This made me more driven to learn on my own or seek out the information that I wanted to know. I am still this way today. But if I never went through this experience, I may never have learned this about myself. I always get the question, do I need to go to art school to have a career in art? What you have to understand is that college is a waste if you are just going through the motions. In my experience, you don't have to have a degree to do art for a living. Though I have a degree, I've never had anybody ask to see it. I think your artwork should be able to speak for itself. You do, however, need to learn the skills to make quality art and a strong portfolio. If you need someone directing you in person and keeping you on track with assignments, college is probably the best choice for you. If you are disciplined enough to learn on your own, seek out the information yourself, and put the work in to improve your skills, alternative options like online classes, books, etc. might be a good option for you. I would say the two most valuable things that I learned in college were anatomy and figure drawing and how to critique. Both are things that I feel like I would have trouble learning outside of a classroom setting. But after recently taking classes on schoolism, I found that overall I prefer online learning to a classroom setting. To finish up college, I had to do a presentation of my thesis project to 30 plus people, which I was absolutely terrified to do then, but I feel like after doing YouTube videos, I would be a little better at it now. Afterwards, I had to show my work in a gallery. I finally was able to work digitally. My thesis was called An Artist's Journey, and it focused on growing with each piece as I worked on drawing environments. The concept was actually influenced by my time learning on my own outside of class. After 5.5 years of college, I graduated with a bachelor's in fine arts with a concentration in drawing in 2017. After college, I continued working at the photo studio as an assistant stylist where I would prep handbags for commercial photography. I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go from here. I was living in the Midwest and I knew there weren't any jobs in the animation industry in my area, but I didn't feel prepared at all to move to LA to work in the industry. Even though I literally moved 10 different times as a kid, they've always been in the same area. I've never known anything else. I think that was a big reason why I was hesitant to move away for college. My whole life was here and I couldn't visualize being anywhere else. Plus, I had a lot of big things going on at the time. I got engaged, we bought a house, and then we got married. I was also doing portrait photography as a side gig at the time. For a very brief moment, I actually considered being a commercial photographer and doing art on the side. I was feeling disheartened about doing art as a career, and I felt like photography was a safer option. My assistant stylist job was very repetitive, so I had a lot of time to listen to podcasts, most of which focused on art and interviews with different artists. Hearing their stories inspired me and motivated me to draw more. Some artists' interviews even talked about freelancing, which was something I actually never considered before. They also talked a lot about marketing yourself, mainly through Instagram. One piece of advice that I heard a lot was the importance of posting consistently. Back in 2017, I started gaining traction on Instagram when Overwatch's Instagram page shared one of my diva fan arts. After college, I had a lot more time to dedicate to art, so I started to try to post daily. Posting consistently, working on improving my art, and participating in Draw This in Your Style challenges helped me grow my account from 2K to 10K in just 6 months. If you want to hear more about how I grew my Instagram, you should check out my How to Grow Your Instagram Part 1 video. As I started growing my account and building confidence in my work, I took my first commissions in early 2018. There's a lot to commissions, like trying to price them, communicating with clients, and marketing yourself, but I'm gonna have to save that for another video where I can talk about it in more detail. The more time I was spending drawing at home, the more I wanted to quit my job and do art full time. Taking commissions on the side while I still had another job helped me see that people would actually pay money for my art. My husband, Chris, has always been so encouraging and supportive. He'd been telling me for months that I should quit and do art full time, and that would be okay financially while I was starting my business. But since we just bought our first house, I was afraid to make any major decisions. I don't know if you can tell by this point, but I tend to be very hesitant and overthink things. By the fall of 2018, we were down to one car and we were carpooling to work since Chris's 24-year-old car had finally bit the dust. Marley was also having trouble adjusting to the move and had bad separation anxiety. It was so bad that one day we came home and he had completely shredded the blinds in the living room. I just couldn't leave him alone after that. I didn't know that when I left work that day, it would be my last. In November 2018, I quit my job to do art full-time. Keep in mind that while my decision to quit that day was sudden, I did have a plan of what I was going to do as a freelance artist before quitting. I'd been working diligently on building my skills and learning to market my art on Instagram. I also tested the waters by taking commissions before I quit my job to see if people would actually buy my art. Remember that it's very important to have a plan in place before making any major decisions. Whoa, hold on. Stop the video. Hello, future Erica here. I realized upon rewatch of this video that I forgot to say something very important, and that has to do with savings. If you are planning on transitioning into a freelance career, having savings built up is extremely important. Not only should you have a plan in place about what you're going to do to create income when you're freelancing, you want to also have a backup plan with savings just in case something were to happen. In my case, since I worked at that night shift job where they paid for my schooling, I was able to build up savings instead of putting that towards student loans. My husband also did the same thing. So we were both able to build up savings by the time we bought our house, and that's why I was able to transition into working freelance full time. But yeah, I thought that was very important to add, so I will let you get back to the video now. After I quit, it felt so weird knowing that I wasn't gonna go back to work and that it was up to me to plan out my days. I started setting up a small office when we moved in, and I made a list of things that would help make working at home easier. I mostly focused on doing commissions early on, but I was also doing a lot of personal work, and I felt like my art was improving dramatically since I had more time to dedicate to it. I also started my YouTube channel at the end of 2018 with my first sketchbook tour video. YouTube was honestly something I never thought I would be able to do. I was so shy and afraid to talk on camera. But as I started making more videos, I learned how to plan them, edit them, and speak on camera. Plus, making YouTube videos has made me more comfortable talking to people in general. I spent the first 2 months of 2019 preparing to launch my Patreon. This mainly involved deciding what was going to be in each tier, how much they were going to be, and creating the branding for everything. Patreon would allow me to make some additional income aside from commissions and allow me to create the artwork that I wanted to create. Plus, this was a way that I could show my supporters a behind-the-scenes look of how I create my illustrations. Back when I first started creating art, the internet was the only resource that I had. I wanted to be able to help other artists learn from my experiences, especially for artists like me who didn't have in-person classes available to them. I've been freelancing for about 1.5 years now, and I feel like I've learned a lot in that time. When you're freelancing, one of the most important things is to have multiple streams of income. If you're relying on one stream of income and that stops coming in, like if a project ends or if you have slow sales that month, you want to be able to earn money from other sources of income. Basically, don't put all your eggs in one basket. My income mainly comes from Patreon, but I also earn money through my Etsy shop, YouTube, licensing deals, working with companies to create art or video content, and conventions occasionally. Most people who reach out to me to do projects find me through Instagram or YouTube. You also have to be extremely organized. I have a planner where I make a list of overall goals for the week, and then I assign those to different days. I also keep a bullet journal where I make lists, write notes, and keep track of Patreon shoutouts. Then as far as taxes go, I make sure to keep an Excel spreadsheet with my earnings and my expenses, and I make sure to keep all of my receipts. I love what I do, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It gets pretty lonely sometimes without coworkers. Well, ones that aren't covered in fur. Sorry, boys. Work-life balance is also harder since your office is at your house. It's too easy to work longer hours than you should or to work on the weekends just because you're at home. You'll also want to spend more time with other hobbies since art is part of your job now. Doing it all the time can cause burnout. Trust me, I know. I also discovered that I have a lot more anxiety now. There was a while there where on some weekends I would feel guilty because I knew I had work to get done, but since it was the weekend, I was trying to relax. I was in this weird limbo where I wasn't working, but I wasn't letting myself enjoy my free time either. Lately, I've been trying to work through these things. I started listening to more podcasts about having a positive mindset. I spent more time outside playing with the dogs and tending to the plants. I also started baking more just for fun, so we just have cakes sometimes at the house. I've also been trying to allow myself more relaxed, lazy days where I can just play Animal Crossing all day. The point is, it's all about balance. I got the question on Instagram, what's surprised you most about your journey? And I had to think about that for a second. But I would have to say that I never imagined that I could create the art that I wanted to and still live in the Midwest. If I would have known this, it would have saved me a lot of stress in the past. I am so thankful for the internet. I feel like even 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to do this. All in all, I love being a freelance artist. I love being able to decide what I work on and scheduling my day. I love being able to dedicate time to improvement and bettering my skills. I even love little things like packaging orders and putting stickers on envelopes. But I think most of all, I genuinely love creating content that helps other artists find their way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and maybe even found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you click the bell to get notifications for my future art videos. Before I go, I'd like to thank my patrons for supporting my art and the channel. I have a few shout outs for new and upgrading top supporters. These include Wilhelm Design, Laura Goed Coop Design, Lappy Creamy and Yumi, Lilac Moonlight Designs, Julia A. Arts, Mariana S.B. Art, Monica, Crystal, Elizabeth, and Hannah. Seriously, thank you guys so much. Because of your support, I can freelance and continue creating personal art and videos like these to help other artists. If you'd like to see your name in the credits of my next YouTube video and unlock exclusive tutorials, step-by-steps, speed paintings, and more, make sure you check out the Patreon link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye!